Like I was just cause I just got back from arraignment, and I'm like, all I heard was murder, murder, and I'm just like,
damn,
like that was.
Before the headlines, the memes, and the endless snitch jokes, 6ix9ine had to face one brutal reality: being locked up. No music, no luxury, no fame to hide behind. In this part, he opens up about what those first nights really felt like and how they changed the way he saw everything. It all began on November 18th, 2018. Federal agents took Daniel Hernandez, along with several members linked to the 9 Trey Bloods, including his former manager, Kafano Shorty Jordan. The charges were serious: racketeering, conspiracy, and drug-related crimes connected to multiple street incidents across New York City. Prosecutors claim Hernandez bankrolled the crew for protection while boosting his music image. Facing a potential life sentence with a minimum of 47 years, his fame couldn't save him now.
Locked up at 6 o'clock, right? Rachel, I got locked up at 6 o'clock that night. I watched the movie on like a Fed phone. Like they gave me like an iPad or whatever, and they said just lay on the rug like and watch a movie. I watched Long Survivor.
The arrest went down around 6 p.m., and that timing wasn't random. FBI wiretaps caught members of his old crew plotting revenge after 6ix9ine's publicly fired them on Instagram. Federal agents stepped in fast. They knew things were about to get ugly for him. The next day, November 19th, he appeared in court where bail was denied, even after offering $1 million and his passport. The evidence against him, much of it came straight from his own social media posts showing off that wild street lifestyle. Hernandez pleaded not guilty. His lawyer, Lance Lazaro, said the charges were exaggerated, built on gossip and street talk. He argued 6ix9ine wasn't really part of the gang. He just used the image to sell records and boost his fame. But what came next shocked everyone. Instead of being placed somewhere safe, Hernandez was thrown straight into general population at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a place known for harsh conditions and chaos. The MDC had a rough reputation: overcrowded, loud, and filled with high-risk inmates. Even the U.S. Justice Department admitted the place had serious problems, from mold to constant lockdowns. And yet, this was where they put one of the most famous, and at that moment, most hated men in hip-hop. It didn't make sense. Just days before, authorities had claimed they were protecting his life, but now he was surrounded by potential enemies. His lawyer called it reckless, saying it exposed Hernandez to unnecessary danger just because of who he was. Inside, inmates face long lockdowns, broken systems, and constant tension. Prison experts like Sam Mangle described MDC as a nightmare, so bad that even judges sometimes refused to send defendants there. Reports say 6ix9ine quickly felt the pressure, clashing with prisoners, including those from rival groups. The tension was real and dangerous, but what he went through that first night wasn't what anyone expected.
It's like, I'm trying to think about how that night went. No, that night I was like, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm not, cause I just got back from arraignment, and I'm like, all I heard was murder, murder, and I'm just like,
damn,
like that was.
Years later, he shared the truth. It wasn't nonstop chaos or panic like the headlines made it sound. While everyone outside thought he was fighting for his life, he was actually sitting in his cell watching a war movie on an iPad. That strange, almost comical moment showed how 6ix9ine processed the madness. He wasn't frozen by fear, he was already thinking about what to do next. But the following day, reality hit hard. At his arraignment, the courtroom atmosphere turned heavy as the charges were read aloud: racketeering, conspiracy, serious felonies that could end his freedom for good. The weight of it all sank in. No matter how loud his music had been, this was a whole new level of pressure. Still, even with everything collapsing around him, Hernandez's lawyer made one thing clear: 6ix9ine didn't ask for special treatment or protective custody. His main concern wasn't himself. It was keeping his family safe from the chaos outside. That moment marked the beginning of a long, unpredictable chapter in his story, one that would change everything. This part was key. Hernandez wasn't begging for protection or hiding in fear. He was focused on his family, not himself. The threats against him didn't start inside jail. They began earlier, when he decided to distance himself from the 9 Trey crew in October 2018. That decision came right after a court hearing where he narrowly avoided getting locked up. What was supposed to be a chill celebration dinner suddenly turned chaotic when his former manager's people clashed with others connected to his label. FBI wiretaps later exposed how gang figures like Mel Murda and Shotty talked about getting revenge, using phrases like, "He don't got nothing to lose no more." That was enough for the feds to step in. Even then, Hernandez refused FBI protection offers. He didn't want to look scared, But everyone knew the risks were real. Inside, people labeled him a snitch, which made things even more dangerous, especially around inmates connected to the streets. Friends and old associates like Trife Drew and Wizard reportedly went into hiding after 6ix9ine cut ties with his old crew. The tension was real, but when he later described his first days behind bars, the story surprised everyone. The so-called dangerous general population unit wasn't filled with gang members. It was mostly older inmates, cooperators, and people just trying to finish their time quietly. It wasn't the nightmare people imagined. A week after his arrest, on November 26, 2018, Hernandez was moved out of Brooklyn's MDC to a private federal facility in Queens. This transfer wasn't his choice. The authorities made the call after reports of confrontations. The new spot was nothing like the stories floating online. He wasn't spending nights fearing for his life. He was on the phone for hours, talking to his girlfriend, trying to hold on to any sense of normal life. The setup there was calmer.
I thought like it was gonna be a shower, and everybody showered. But when I first got to jail, I was in
Rat jail.
I was in a rat jail, but it was protective custody jail, like protective custody unit. Like it was on like older guys in my pod. And then the jails were covered off. It was
private showers, quiet spaces, and older inmates who were also cooperating with authorities. This wasn't the same kind of environment that housed people like R. Kelly or Ghislaine Maxwell under extreme conditions. Instead, it was a controlled area built to keep high-risk cooperators safe. And believe it or not, he even had access to commissary, something that gave him a small sense of freedom. He managed his money smartly, depositing small amounts each day to keep control of his funds. In a world where trust was rare, that meant everything. Even the food situation wasn't what people expected. It wasn't fine dining, but it wasn't unbearable either. When he spoke about all this later, the interviewer's reaction said it all. The place sounded almost comfortable compared to what people imagine when they hear federal detention. But Hernandez made sure to explain that this comfort wasn't random. It had context. He was cooperating, and that meant the system had a reason to keep him safe, healthy, and ready to testify. That protection came with strings attached. His setup was completely different from the chaotic side of MDC. He even mentioned the difference when comparing it to where Jeffrey Epstein was held, the Manhattan Correctional Center, a place known for being overcrowded and crumbling. Hernandez knew the gap between where he was and where Epstein had been. It was night and day. What stood out most was his awareness. He wasn't just surviving, he was analyzing. He understood the system he was in and knew things could have been way worse. In protective custody, his time passed quietly. No wild incidents, no serious conflicts, just isolation, reflection, and a ton of thinking. By the end, he completed community service and paid over $236,000 in restitution, closing one of the craziest chapters of his life. After his 2019 release, sped up because of his cooperation and health concerns during COVID, Hernandez started opening up about that wild chapter of his life. In interviews with outlets like Vlad TV and Billboard, he downplayed how bad things really were in 2018, claiming he never faced any real confrontations despite being labeled a snitch. He wasn't broken, he was reborn.
Your own soap from commissary, and it's like you set your pin, it's like a machine.
Right.
And then I would just call my business manager and I'm like, yo,
wire 100 grand.
No, it was like $100 every day because I didn't.
In a 2020 Billboard interview, 6ix9ine talked about how jail changed him completely. He said it gave him fearlessness, like he'd already faced the worst life could throw his way. He even called out what he saw as the hypocrisy in rap culture, naming artists like 21 Savage, Gunna, and T.I., saying others had done similar things but didn't get the same hate. He believed the whole snitch talk was selective outrage and he wasn't having it anymore. That protective custody arrangement wasn't just about comfort, it was strategy. The feds needed Hernandez alive to testify against the 9 Trey crew, including his former manager, Shoddy. His testimony led to multiple convictions, and his cooperation became one of the biggest moments in modern hip-hop legal history. But beyond that, his situation showed how the system treats high-profile cooperators. They're isolated, monitored, and given just enough breathing room to stay calm and compliant. Inside that setup, Hernandez wasn't just surviving, he was observing. He realized his story wasn't about being a victim, it was about mindset. Throughout his time locked up, he said faith, not fear, guided him. In interviews, he repeated it with pride. When you walk with the Almighty, you walk confidently, no fear. That line summed up how he wanted people to see him, not as a coward, but as someone who made smart choices to stay alive. This faith-driven mindset flipped the whole street code conversation upside down. In hip-hop culture, cooperating with law enforcement is seen as betrayal. Informants are usually cut off or worse, but Hernandez refused to carry the shame. He didn't hide, he didn't apologize, he owned it. He said his choices were about protecting his loved ones, not impressing the streets. If it keeps my family safe, I'd do it again, he admitted, turning what others saw as weakness into his version of strength. He even traced this mindset back to that very first night in his cell. Remember the war movie Lone Survivor he watched? That film stuck with him because it showed how one decision can mean the difference between life and death. He saw a connection. Survival means adapting, not holding on to pride. For 6ix9ine, it wasn't about revenge or proving toughness. It was about staying sharp, staying calm, and staying alive. Instead of plotting payback, he spent his days on the phone with family, keeping his mind clear and his money handled. He managed his commissary carefully and built a routine to keep his sanity intact. The way he described it later, the lack of fear wasn't some fake bravado, it was strategy. He knew that fear could get you targeted in prison. By projecting confidence, he built a psychological shield around himself. That's why his lawyer's statement that 6ix9ine never asked for protective custody was so powerful. It helped him keep his image intact. Even if the system moved him for its own reasons, he could still claim, "I didn't need protection. They did that, not me." It gave him control over his own story, something most people lose when they're locked up. "I never had no problems. Thank God," Hernandez told Vlad TV, crediting his safety to divine protection instead of government guards. Faith was always front and center in his story, but behind that spiritual talk was something deeper: strategy. Hernandez understood the system. He knew his real protection came from being valuable to prosecutors. As long as he was willing to testify, they had every reason to keep him safe. His cooperation wasn't emotional, it was business, and he played it smart. That mindset went way beyond his own survival. He started calling out the entire hip-hop street code that once defined him. He pointed straight at artists like 21 Savage, Gunna, and T.I., saying they'd done similar things but never caught the same backlash. This wasn't him being defensive. It was a calculated move. By flipping the conversation and questioning his critics' morals, he took power away from their attacks. In a 2025 Vlad TV interview, he talked about how getting arrested young, at just 17, had already hardened him. He'd learned how to navigate systems designed to break people like him down. Jail wasn't new, it was just another level. So when he said he'd do it again if it meant keeping his family safe, that wasn't a random statement. It was his entire philosophy. He rejected that so-called street loyalty and replaced it with his own rule: family first, survival always. That mindset became his armor. You could hear it in how he described his later arrest too, especially when he turned himself in again at Brooklyn's MDC on January 6, 2026. He didn't sneak in quietly. He showed up in a luxury van with streamer Adin Ross and YouTuber Steve Will duet, cameras rolling, and music blasting. They were literally singing Justin Bieber's Baby on the way there. That scene said everything. This wasn't someone broken by the system. He'd already made peace with what was coming. He even laughed about it in interviews, saying his past jail time wasn't that bad. Then he dropped a track called First Day In, featuring Ross and Cuff, turning his surrender into content. The song touched on incarceration, rivalries, and self-reflection. But mostly it was proof that 6ix9ine knew how to turn pain into publicity. His spokesperson later said he was focusing on personal growth, training, health, and content planning behind bars. And honestly, it made sense. The story he built around resilience served a purpose. It kept his name alive in a music industry that had mostly turned its back on him. It gave his fans something to believe in. And more than that, it helped him mentally, reframing the chaos not as trauma, but as transformation. But even with all that showmanship, there was truth in the narrative. The man really had survived multiple stints behind bars without serious harm. He testified against one of the most notorious crews in modern hip-hop history and still walked the streets afterward. He'd broken every street rule and yet remained visible, defiant, and loud. Whether people liked him or not, 6ix9ine had proven one thing: he could take the heat and keep moving. The line between threat and reality in his story showed something bigger too. While the danger around him was real, federal documents and recordings proved that people had plotted against him. The actual outcomes were different. The perception of danger didn't match the results. He'd outlasted every threat, every headline, every prediction of doom. And through it all, he never stopped talking, never stopped performing, never stopped being 6ix9ine. The public firing of his crew on social media didn't just spark gossip, it triggered serious alarms. The FBI issued direct warnings. and federal agents moved fast to arrest him before anything worse could happen. Prosecutors later showed hard evidence of those threats in court. Wiretaps caught gang members clearly talking about hurting Hernandez. This wasn't rumor or media exaggeration. The danger was real, and everyone knew it. Yet somehow, no attacks ever happened during his first jail stay in 2018. The quick transfer to protective custody stopped anything before it could start. Even before that move, when he was briefly kept in general population, nobody touched him. That gap between threats and action said a lot about how violence inside prison really works. It's not random. It takes planning, timing, and opportunity. When the federal system wants to prevent it, it absolutely can. Hernandez's lawyer questioned why he was even placed in general population to begin with, knowing those threats existed. But luckily, the system corrected itself fast, moving him before anything serious went down. Fast forward to his 2026 sentence. It's the same story all over again. As of January 14th, 2026, he's more than a week into a 3-month stint at MDC Brooklyn, and nothing bad has been reported. No threats, no fights, no chaos. Given his background as a government cooperator, he's likely being held in protective custody again, kept separate from anyone who might want to test him. MDC Brooklyn has a rough reputation for violence and poor conditions, but Hernandez hasn't been linked to a single problem this time around. Instead of acting scared, he's been cracking jokes online, talking about being locked up in the same spot as Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and Luigi Mangione. He even joked about playing cards, dancing, or sharing ramen with them. That humor showed he wasn't losing sleep over this latest round behind bars. The difference between what happens inside and what happens outside is wild. In 2023, Hernandez was jumped at an LA Fitness in Florida, and later, 2 producers in the Dominican Republic allegedly attacked him. Those incidents show that his real danger doesn't come from inside prison. It's out in the world. Ironically, jail has turned into the safest place for him. The same system meant to punish him has ended up protecting him better than the streets ever did. Still, the media keeps spinning the opposite story. Headlines scream about death threats and deadly cells, painting MDC Brooklyn as a nightmare zone. Articles predicted 6ix9ine would pay the ultimate price for cooperating, but reality keeps proving otherwise. There's been no violent outbreaks, no chaos, no movie scene moments, just routine, isolation, and boredom. Hernandez's time behind bars is mostly filled with simple stuff like phone calls, commissary runs, and watching shows on a tablet. That doesn't mean the threats weren't serious, they definitely were. But it shows that when the federal system wants to keep someone safe, it can. Hernandez is living proof that with enough monitoring, segregation, and attention, the danger can be contained. The government has strong motivation to protect people like him. After all, his testimony helped put away major players. The system doesn't go this far for everyone, but for high-value inmates like him, it pulls out all the stops. For 6ix9ine, jail hasn't been a war zone, it's been paperwork, rules, and waiting. His punishment has been more mental than physical, more about isolation than danger. The real hell came from being cut off and publicly rejected, not from anyone trying to hurt him. His snitch label has made him a constant topic of conversation, but he insists that inside it hasn't brought him trouble. He keeps calling out hip-hop's double standards, too. Hernandez says plenty of rappers cooperate with the law when it helps them, but nobody talks about that. His case shows how prison danger isn't random. It's preventable when officials actually step up. At the same time, fame works as both a shield and a target. He's too recognizable for anyone to touch without it turning into a national story. Looking at the bigger picture, Hernandez's story shines a light on deeper issues: America's justice system, hip-hop culture, and celebrity itself. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he's done most of his time, has housed big names like R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and even Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The place has a long list of complaints: overcrowding, short staffing, bad food, and even mold. Some judges have refused to send people there because of how rough it's been. Still, the Bureau of Prisons has claimed progress between 2024 and 2025. Less violence, higher staffing, over 700 maintenance fixes, and more telehealth programs. Even so, the place still carries that dark rep. For Hernandez, MDC has been both punishment and protection. Being kept away from general population keeps him safe, but also leaves him totally alone. That separation guards his body, but tests his mind. His decision to cooperate years ago shortened his 2019 sentence, but it also left him blacklisted in the music world. The fallout was brutal. Former collaborators cut him off, radio stopped playing his songs, and other artists mocked him openly. But instead of running from the hate, he used it. He turned himself into the villain that won't disappear, leaning into controversy and chaos to stay relevant. His live stream surrender in early 2026, his active social media posts, and his ongoing music drops all prove one thing: he's not backing down. His current 3-month sentence came from supervised release violations, drug possession, and a minor mall fight in 2025, following another short stint in 2024. These weren't major crimes, but they showed the court that he wasn't following the rules. The 2025 mall scuffle reportedly started after someone taunted him, but it still broke his release terms. The drug case pointed to continued use of cocaine and MDMA, even after court-ordered treatment. That's why the judge decided to put him back inside for a bit. If he keeps a clean record, he's expected out by early April 2026. After this, he'll be on supervised release for another year with strict anger management and substance treatment conditions. Whether he'll stick to them this time, no one knows. His team says he's taking things seriously, focusing on fitness, music, and new projects. During this stint, he even announced a goal to drop 70 pounds and treat the time as reset mode. The idea of using jail time as a self-improvement arc fits right into his public narrative. He's built his image on resilience, turning setbacks into storylines. Some people laugh at it, calling his live stream entrance a desperate stunt, while others joke online about who his cellmates might be. Either way, social media keeps spinning his jail time into entertainment, and that might be exactly how he planned it. 6ix9ine's money situation has made his comeback even trickier. After his 2020 release, he signed a massive $10 million deal, but later admitted he blew through most of it. His career hasn't bounced back to what it was before jail. Streams dropped, venues stay cautious, and promoters avoid the drama that comes with his name. Public backlash keeps following him everywhere. But his story isn't just about fame or money. It's about codes, loyalty, and survival. In a world where street rules are everything, Hernandez broke the biggest one. He cooperated with the feds and lived to talk about it. He didn't just snitch and hide. He turned it into his whole brand. Love him or hate him, he forced hip-hop to face its own contradictions. 6ix9ine has said it loud. He's not the only one who's ever cooperated. He's called out names like 21 Savage, Gunna, and T.I., saying they made similar moves but got a pass because they kept it quiet. His point? He was honest about it while others played innocent. It hasn't made him many friends, but it did spark a real conversation about authenticity, image, and moral authority in hip-hop. The culture glorifies street life, yet condemns the choices that come with surviving it. 6ix9ine's cooperation exposed that double standard. Whether his toughness is real or just part of the act, he's managed to stay in the spotlight through controversy, music, and pure audacity. His resilience, genuine or not, has kept him relevant in an industry that tried to cancel him long ago. Still, the big question remains: how long can this last? His record shows a pattern. Each time he slips up, the punishment gets longer. His first arrest in 2018 nearly ended his freedom for good, but cooperation saved him. Then came smaller violations, a 45-day stint in 2024 that turned into a 3-month sentence by 2026. If things keep trending this way, his next one could be way worse. His case also exposes the difference between celebrity justice and regular justice. Most people who cooperate in gang cases don't get protective custody, don't have elite lawyers, and definitely don't get to make music while serving time. 6ix9ine's fame gave him perks others could never dream of, but it also made him a walking target. His visibility is both a blessing and a curse. Every move he makes is recorded, posted, and dissected by millions. Even his live stream surrender in 2026 pulled in massive views, showing how every moment of his life, good or bad, turns into content. He can't disappear even if he wanted to. In the end, 6ix9ine's journey is a mix of contradictions: street legend and outcast, villain and survivor, rebel and businessman. He's become a living question mark in hip-hop, forcing people to ask what real even means anymore. His story proves that sometimes survival doesn't follow the rules, it rewrites them. And that's where we'll wrap this one up. 6ix9ine's story is still unfolding, and you can bet there's more drama to come. What do you think? Will he finally learn from all this, or is another headline just around the corner? Let us know your take in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. And we'll see you in the next video.